Hi, what is the tarot and how can it help us with self-discovery? Well, joining me today on Spiritual Invitation is Traci Crampton, and she's here to tell us all about it. Now, a little bit about our guest. Traci is an intuitive advisor who helps people understand and best utilize the energies and spiritual lessons moving through their lives for the purpose of self-growth. She uses tools such as tarot and mediumship, channeling spirit guides, in her practice to access deeper layers of information in order to help her clients navigate their life paths, careers, and relationships. Traci serves clients both in her Hebron, Connecticut office and via phone or video conference sessions. Yay!
Thank you for having me, Carla.
Traci, I'm so
happy to be
excited.
here.
Thank you for coming on.
Pleasure.
Now, I've been wanting to share with you that I actually had a grand aunt on my dad's side who in 1900 lived in London, owned a tea shop, and she used to do tarot readings way back then.
I love that. Two of my favorite things, tea and tarot.
So I don't really know much about it, and I'm really excited. I have so many questions for you.
Great.
All right.
Wait.
So we always begin with, tell us about your spiritual journey. How did it begin for you?
Okay. I always say it's very layered, and this really wasn't the path that I ever imagined myself going down. I always kind of wanted to be in healing work. I pictured being a doctor probably when I was younger, but then the sight of blood and all that kind of turned me off. But I still kind of stayed true to that path in some regards. I was in the mental health field for quite some time, but I had some experiences in my younger days. Early on, I had a sister who passed away when I was about 5. And I think that was an interesting experience. And at 5, there's a lot of confusion around, life and death and all of that. And this experience kind of feel like it opened me up to the spirit realm. I started having experiences in which, I would lie in bed at night and I would actually see figures. They felt like they were enclosed in a bubble, and it was mostly just faces. And then I would tell my mother the next day, and she would be like, that's this particular person or this particular person, people I had never even met, relatives I had never even met, who had long since passed.
Them as a child.
And I was seeing them in such detail. And I had some other experiences too where I felt like I was almost time traveling in other people's lives. I would have experiences in which I was my mother, for instance, having a memory that was her memory. So I felt and she would say that exact same thing happened to me when I was about 8 or 9. And this is, how, so I could play it all out, the whole scenario. So that was interesting. And so I don't think I thought it was particularly unusual, till you get a little older and you're around your peers and they're like, okay, that's a little strange or different. So I feel like there were years where, not that it was shut down entirely, but it was a little, leveled out.
Goes dormant.
It goes dormant. Thank you. That's the perfect word. And then when I had children, I had one daughter who had some medical autoimmune problems that she was born with, and I was seeking out ways to kind of help her. So I was practicing Reiki and some other alternative holistic approaches to helping her to heal. And through that process, I really feel like it opened up that channel again. And I began doing Reiki, which is an energy healing technique. You've probably at some point may have discussed that on this show. And I think those attunements that I received in order to practice Reiki, really reopened that channel, because I was getting a lot of messages, spiritual messages from my clients. I had, always taken an interest in tarot. So as a teen, and I self-taught myself the tarot, and I always had kind of an intuitive slant on what the cards meant, at least to me. And so as I was developing my energy practice, people started to ask me, can I just do a reading for them, which was, a stretch for me. But then, I had these tools that I was already familiar with. So I found, it was an easy transition, easier than I thought. And then before you know it, I was on this path that I wasn't
takes
expecting.
over. Yeah.
But I love it. I love it. I was being
sure
led,
you
and
do.
I answered. I answered that call.
Yeah, well, I'm always fascinated when children have experiences, and it was really wonderful that your mother was open to this.
Yes. She never was like, "Oh, that's strange," or "That's weird."
No,
she was
validated
fascinated
all the time.
She did. Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. So, what is tarot, and how does it work?
Okay. So tarot has a very long and interesting history, and I won't get into all of that, but many different cultures claim that they've used the tarot in their foundations all along. And so the tarot, I really feel that it depicts like the hero's journey. So if you've ever heard about the hero's journey in literature, it's symbolic of that. It kind of moves through this story of humanity, or humans in general, from birth to the wise old sage. Okay, and all of the movements in between that kind of help to grow us up. Like either the blessings that we're meant to receive, or the lessons that we move through, and many are very symbolic of all of our journeys. But they could play out very differently for each one of us.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. So where does the information come from? I'm always concerned about with anybody has any type of intuitive abilities or psychic or anything like that, that their information come from
the light.
The light.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
And there's many misconceptions about the tarot because of that. Some believe that it is, not aligned with certain religions, but it's really very open. It's the symbolism in the tarot is very altruistic, very benevolent. It's not there in any harmful way. I really do feel like intuitively there's a knowing the cards and what their meanings are. Like you can read any book on tarot and see what the cards physically mean, but there's always, if you're practiced in the tarot, there's always this intuitive layer piece, where through I really feel like through that channel, when you're connected to spirit, you receive some additional layers of information. So you might be able to say, these are the symbols I'm seeing, but I feel that they may play out in this way in your life,
right?
Or this is how they may influence your particular journey. Okay. So, but I really do, stress, the benevolence and the gifts that all of those lessons or blessings have on people's lives. And even, sometimes I get some feedback from spirit as I'm trying to, explain what I'm seeing in the cards to people. People's loved ones kind of tap me on the shoulder and let me know this may mean this or that for this particular person. And I'm always open to that. But I also am very intentional in only welcoming benevolent spirit to help me, and
just
guide
that
me
energy,
in that
'cause
reading.
it's a big universe, and
Absolutely,
and so, and when we say the light, we mean, like you say, total
Love,
and really from heaven, from the love source, from God, whatever the source is for
Absolutely.
you, which we all have access to that guidance, right? So that you're getting your information from there. So that's really good to hear. So what are some more misconceptions and myths that people have about tarot?
Okay, so I think that some people believe that, some people have a very strong feeling that it's against their religion in particular. Okay. And then, I only see it as a tool for accessing spiritual information. I know that some people may have misused the practice. And I think that's maybe why people may have some misconceptions. However, it's not really, it's a non-secular practice. It's not really a religious practice. So it can actually strengthen your practice if you follow a particular religion, or if you're just spiritual in general. It doesn't go against anything. So, I always find that it's neutral in a sense. The cards that are pulled or the cards that are being read really are brought, I really feel that they become part of your spread or part of your reading through the law of synchronicity, and the person that I'm reading, the person that is present with me, they're intentional, like their intentions and their desires to kind of access information for their highest good. And I sit with my clients in particular and ask them to kind of silently intend for information for their highest good to come forward. And so just the fact that they're there, open and present and intentional, brings this energy forward in the cards.
Right. Okay. So obviously, like any professional out there, whether it be Western, Eastern thought, whatever it is, you know who you're going to and know what their attitude is with something. So, that they do this, of the light, that they're not going to interfere. They're not going to...
And I think some people can get concerned that they're accessing some spiritual energy that may be bad or maybe cursed. I don't even go down that road. And it hurts my heart to work with clients who come in, haven't had experiences where somebody's said, there's a curse or there's this bad stuff. Thing, because it does feed a fear that may, in a sense, attract lower vibrating energy to them. I really do feel like when you're living in fear, you're attracting from a lower frequency. So I try to dispel that, those fears, so that they can use this process to kind of access some higher frequency energy, some more spiritual, loving energy.
Right. Well, I always tell people too, run from anyone that creates fear in your life. I mean, it's just not right.
Right. So if anybody sees a reader who is telling them, this particular event is going to happen, that's tragic. I really kind of steer away from the whole, predicting outcomes that are fearful, because you can use some information to kind of help you realign yourself or avoid or move, even if there is a lesson that's to be experienced. How do you move through that with grace and ease and less pain? Right. So it doesn't have to be a painful experience.
No, and I was excited too when you said you'd like to talk about using the tarot in terms of self-discovery. Right? So we're not saying... Are you going to find the love of your life? Are you going to quit your job? Are you going to move out of state? Are you going to say, we're not talking, is your kid going to be all right? That's not what we're talking about. It's within, right? It's personal. So I'm excited. We're going to get to the cards in a moment, but one huge one is when people see the death cards. So explain what else. It doesn't mean...
It doesn't mean that you are going to die or a loved one is going to die. It really, I kind of think of each card as a capsule of energy that's moving through your life. So say the death card were to make itself present in your spread. That is the experience of loss and rebirth. It's like the cycle of life, right? So that some things come to an end, so other things so it makes space for the new in your life, okay? So in fact, in my particular deck that I love, the death card, shows the sun in the background. So it's a reminder that, what fades away and dies away becomes like the fertilizer for something new.
For rebirth.
So, when we see that card, there sometimes is an experience of loss, but it doesn't have to be you are going to die. It could just be you're moving through this experience to learn its lesson, learn how to grieve, learn how to become less or more detached from, not emotionally detached. I'm not saying people should cut off their emotions, but to understand that things fade away and pass, and that's a natural process in our lives. It's just natural.
There are things, we all do it, that we let go of.
Right. And sometimes it could just be as simple as do I let go of, a particular job that's not serving me, or a relationship that's not serving me? And if that card were to come through, it'd be like a confirmation of that. I find that in reading, people are also often just confirmed of what they already know, because if we're, our intuition's always speaking. So I think it brings people comfort, in that they're being shown what, they've already kind of known. They just either maybe don't want to admit to themselves, or they don't want to, or they don't trust themselves or their intuition enough. So I feel like it helps people, situate themselves to make better decisions and kind of, tweak where they need to tweak in their lives in order to kind of get on the right path and go strong towards their future, so.
It's like a validation.
Confirmation. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So you brought your beautiful
I did
deck.
bring my cards.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I can tell they're very used.
These are very loved. This is my favorite deck. It's a Greek mythic deck, which is a lot of the symbolism kind of relate to the gods and goddesses that we know in the Greek mythology, and all of it is about that hero's journey, like how we triumph over certain adversities.
We go through our life, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we just go through our life. And you were saying before the show that there are different decks. People need to understand that. Some are simple, some are very detailed.
Yes, and I think that, for somebody just starting out, if you have an interest in tarot and you want to get started, one of the best decks to pick is a deck that has the actual human figure on it. Like, for instance, let me show a card to our audience here. Like this particular card, I don't know if they could see it.
Yeah, you can kind of see it. So it's somebody
working on a workbench there. And most of the decks that I like to work with do have the human figure on it, and it helps people to kind of relate. What's that person doing in that card? It gives them an instant connection. Like, if you start off with a deck that's overly artistic or doesn't have that human figure on it, you might kind of have more difficulty learning the deck intuitively, because you may not be picking up some of the information
because of all the symbolism that's there.
And as you get more experience, it's fine to go to those decks. But if you're learning this,
but just learning is
a
better
helpful tip. Yeah.
All right, so let's do something.
Okay.
So
what would you like to do?
Maybe you can do, because you're telling me you do this anyways on your website once a week, or on Facebook. On Facebook, once a week,
page.
You'll do a reading, like a 3-card spread.
No, it's usually just a one-card pull, and it's just for my readers on Facebook to have something to meditate on for the week.
Okay.
So we thought today we'd do a little pull for the audience, but I think we could do like a 3-card pull.
Okay, so for the viewers out there, the individual always has the right to decide if it's for them or not, right?
Absolutely.
So this doesn't make sense, that's fine.
Yeah.
Don't think anything of it, right?
Exactly. And, I think that the way that I'll explain it too is just to kind of explain how these energies may show up and help you, because everything really is for your good. Like everything, the universe is always working for you.
All right.
So we're always looking at, how to use a particular energy to your best advantage.
Okay.
So I usually like to shuffle and then cut them.
Give you one.
And then I just pull from the top. Okay.
All right.
So we start with the Queen. She is a Queen, but the Empress card there.
Oh, the Empress card.
That's our first card, and I'll explain why they're in a particular order.
Okay.
We have the Chariot. Those two are both with what are called major arcana cards. So they're like trump cards of the deck. They hold, they represent like bigger life transformations. Mm-hmm. There's like what's called the major arcana deck and the minor arcana deck in the tarot. The majors are those bigger life transformations, and the minors are more like little smaller movements.
Okay.
I always say the difference between your exams and your quizzes.
Yeah,
that's what we're looking at.
So they're both major.
So those two are major, and then we have a Queen of Wands, and the Queen of Wands is a minor. But there's within this spread, both the Empress and the Queen kind of bring out like a feminine kind of nurturing energy.
All right.
Okay, because they both represent that feminine. The Empress, being a bigger transformative energy, represents a time of fertility and abundance, and we're not necessarily talking about fertility in the sense of like pregnancy or conception, although it can, depending on the question that people are asking, it can kind of refer to that. But we're looking at the bigger aspect of that energy, which is like giving birth to a creation. So using creative energy and bringing it forth into the world, like, putting your signature or your mark on the world. And, as you express that creative energy or give birth to something, there's a promise of fertility or abundance. Like, you will eventually reap from that experience.
So right. So if you go back and get more training on the job, then it might reap a promotion.
Right. Or you decide to write a book, or you have a project that you want to begin.
Painting. Yeah.
Right. Like to kind of really access that that idea of birthing your gift into the world.
Wonderful.
Okay. So there's that. The Chariot. The Chariot's an interesting energy in that it has to do with, essentially the will to move forward, typically from a stagnant place or from a place that has, that needs movement or needs that extra oomph, if you see on that card, I'll put it up again, the Chariot, there's a chariot. It's blazing forward. It's like unstoppable.
It's charging.
Okay. It's charging. It's unstoppable. So, this is definitely an indicator, now's the time, to move something forward. No holds bar, no looking back. Okay. What's interesting about the Chariot, though, there's always kind of a energy with that too, is to be cautious moving forward, that you know the mark that you're aiming for. Otherwise, you can feel pulled in a lot of different directions, and that energy can be divided or not, focused. So sometimes we have the will to go forward, but we don't really know where we're going.
Yes.
So it calls us to kind of remember, what is the destination or the goal that we're aiming for. Okay. So we got the creative energy and birthing something, but as you move forward with the will that you have, keep your eye on the ball, don't get distracted, put all your focus forward.
Wonderful.
And then the Queen of Wands, I love this card. This is astrologically, there's a lot of astrological influence in the tarot too, and astrologically this is the Leo card, which we just moved out of.
Yes.
But it's my card because it's my so I always feel very comfortable with the Queen of Wands, but she represents this energy of loyalty and pride. Take pride in your work. Serve those you feel drawn to serve with all of your loyalty, all of your commitment. And there's kind of another side to this too, is accept the recognition that you deserve, allow it in, as opposed to shying it off and not feeling that pride. There's this experience of really being proud of your work. So this is a beautiful scenario in which we're looking at, again, birth that gift into the world. No holds bar, go forward. Just remember to keep your eye on the ball, now's the time. And that Queen of Wands as a reminder to serve those that you connect with, that you feel connected with, serve them fully with your full commitment, and also welcome recognition.
The recognition that you deserve for creating what it is that you're creating.
So this is a very creative
That is beautiful
spread.
For everyone. Yeah. So it's important then for the viewers, and myself included, to just reflect on that for a while, right?
Yep.
It's what project do I want out there? Or what am I looking
forward to?
What
is my gift?
What is my gift, right?
What do I need to birth into this world? What am I here to do? And no hesitation.
No hesitation. So I'm going to go for it.
Right,
I'm going to do it. And then when people say you're wonderful, say, oh, thank you.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. We're getting right to the end. Let's see. So if somebody, just very quickly, if somebody wanted to learn tarot, what recommendations would you make for them to do?
I do teach classes. I think that, whether it's with me or somebody else, you want to really kind of dig deep into it, because there's so many layers. The tarot can be very overwhelming. If you take a class that's just a couple hours long, you're only just scraping the surface. So even if you're looking to do it just as a way to help you with self-guidance in your life, it's important to kind of get some instruction from somebody who understands all the layers. Usually when I teach, I start out with telling people, don't even look at the books. Like, get a deck that you feel drawn to. Sometimes people believe if you've been gifted a deck, that's the cards that are meant for you. I don't necessarily believe that. I feel that you should go and look at the decks and kind of feel what resonates with you. You know, like I feel all about like selecting your own deck. But I recommend that people connect with the cards personally before they even open up any book that explains what the cards mean. And that's because you're gonna make some very intuitive connections with those cards. Like, you're gonna have a whole nother layer of information that comes to you personally that will be useful later when you use those cards, either for yourself or like in reading for others. So I do that, and then we get into the the different storylines in the tarot.
Well, it makes sense. This isn't something you just pick up on your own one night.
No.
While you're watching TV. This is something to really get yourself good training. If you,
my class, like just for my basic class, it's like 8 hours long. It's very in-depth. And very interactive. So people...
And then it will take practice doing it, right? Fairly practice to understand. Well, listen, we are right at the end, but I want to ask you, how do you define spirituality?
Oh, wow. Like, it's interesting because although I have this, side of me that's very, what people would think is woo-woo, like I'm also very sciencey, like I love science. So I kind of see, I don't see the two as separated, spirit and science. I do believe that they are all one. I do see spirituality as kind of this essence of oneness and love, definitely. And that we're all, a drop in that pond, and we're an organism working together, and that we are in essence that drop of God, that godness.
Lovely, that drop of God,
right? All of that exists within us, and then together we make up
the whole. Thank you so much. This has been so wonderful.
I had a lovely time.
Oh, I did too. Thank you. And I do have a better understanding. So I appreciate you bringing the cards.
You're welcome.
So we're going to have all of Traci's contact information up on the screen in just a moment. You can check your local channels to watch us again, or you can visit us on YouTube under my name, Carla Augustin. Also, all the episodes are up on my website at carlaaugustin.com, and please like us on Facebook. I want to thank you so much for watching. This has been Spiritual Invitation. I'm your host, Carla Augustin, inviting you to explore spirituality.